Wu Fei. You can see her up on the screen. Hi, everybody. Hello, can you see everybody?
Hi, everyone. Greetings to you guys from Nashville.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you for coming to the Louisville Academy of Music virtually. We're so happy to have you here today. And she's going to be doing some performing and talking, and then we'll have a question and answer session. Take it away.
Yes. Thank you, Sarah. And I want to thank Louisville Music Academy, first of all, for inviting me to be doing this workshop with you guys. And I actually followed the Instagram page of Louisville Music Academy. So I may have seen you guys pictures and little videos of performing. It's a beautiful room. I love that. Is it like is that Steinway or a grand piano? It looks like mine actually. I was it looks so beautiful, and and then without further ado, my name is Wu Fei. I'm from China. Originally, I was raised and born in Beijing, and then now I live in Nashville. And so I like to just have a short intro about my instrument. And I know all of you are young musicians, and we probably share a lot of practice stories because I was once like you when I was a young teenager. A lot of practice. I used to hate practice. Whew! And then I became being in love with practice and cannot practice without without practice for a day, as otherwise I feel weird. My arms like I need to pluck strings and hit keys. So this is the instrument called the guzheng, guzheng, guzheng. It's a traditional Chinese zither with a history about 2,500 years. Uh, uh, this version you are looking at, because it's so big, it's about 5 feet 5 long. When it stands up, it's taller than me. So my camera can't even cover the whole instrument from the camera, and but it's a very big instrument. And the origin of the instrument, the two vocal, because it's so old, it's kind of hard to find the true birth story of the guzheng. One version said that it was much smaller, that had 8 strings, and then about 1,000 years later, someone added more strings, and then to all the way to the 1950s, that got to 16 string. That was very common, and then since the 1970s, when China opened up to the world and ate all the music instruments, they're also went through a revolution, a renaissance, that became much bigger and more strings. So the version you are looking at now has 21 strings. You know what's interesting? I collaborate with a lot of musicians all over the world. The Western African kora, if you look it up in the future, kora, either Kora or Cora, also has 21 strings. It's interesting with the number of 21 somehow. And so the guzheng has 21 strings and is usually tuned in D pentatonic scale. So it covers 4 octaves from low D to high D. So it's one of the very few instruments actually in the world, among all the cultures, that covers 4 octaves and more. Because there's also 27 string guzhengs. The grand concert harp has 4.5 octaves. So and then to the piano. So there that aren't that many instruments in all the cultures that cover this wide range of octaves, and then it's tuned from low D. Right now, because I usually it's D pentatonic, but I can change the bridge. You see, these bridges are movable. So if I say from A, F sharp, E, D, B, A, if I move this bridge load that way, and then I lower the string. From F sharp, I can get to F natural. Now all of a sudden I it changed entirely the vibe of the scale. But when I move back, now it's a whole nother vibe. And because there's only this much space between two bridges, so the bridge in between can only move this much. So usually it's for fine tuning. So when I want to change big scale to, like, say, a C major or to a B flat major or minor, and this side is a compartment box, and I use a tuning hammer. It's the same size as a piano hammer. It's and then to tune, to change the pitches to a more drastic pitch change, and then in order to change with different keys. So, and then if you can see, probably not so close because there are few green strings colored in green. They're all concert A's. That all happened later when Chinese traditional instruments were kind of internationalized, revolutionized in order to play with Western classical music. Is that so? You know, it's concert A. So we went to, okay, it's A. It's and also it's easier to see the structures, the different registers of the instrument. Otherwise, there's so many instruments you know can, as beginner learners, it can be quite a visually blurry or confusing with just the same color strings. There's so many. Okay, so this is the brief history of the Chinese guzheng. I know there's so much. I wish I could just share about 2,500 years of stories in one workshop. So let me play something. How about let's start from because the music, the guzheng has such a long history throughout different dynasties and regions, because also China has been also a big country area. So every province, regions, or regions near the Yangtze River, the regions near the Yellow River, or the region in the southeast coast near the ocean, they all have their own traditional school of performing techniques over centuries. And primarily, I think it's really related to their dialogue, their languages. Because the old time, two villages that are separated by a mountain, they speak even if the distance may be only 1 mile, but because this mountain, because this river, they couldn't reach each other. So they have their very own distinguished, their unique culture and language. Therefore, when they do music or even poetry, it's very much related to the linguistic sound. And then therefore, because humans before instruments, we talk, we sing, we communicate, we express our thoughts and sadness, happiness with more vocal. That's our first instrument. Therefore, a lot of this later, when instruments invented, I think the sound, the flavor, the style was quite related to how they talk, the pitches and then the rhythmic, how they express, or the vibrato. Some are very rapid, some are more mellow. Also depended on their geographic. The warmer place, maybe people are more mellow. When there's cold place or busy place, people are maybe more aggressive. You can hear from the style of a vibrato, like versus like that. So the first one I like to do is called a 小开手, which is a ancient Henan piece. Henan, this province, is where also Yellow River runs through. Is we're kind of very Chinese culture kind of centered, and for example, their music with more rapid bending. And then then this piece is called a little 小开手, which means literally little open hand. That's before we do a whole set, we play this piece as a warm up. So to open up the hands. So that's the first. Open up my hands. So warm ups, and then in the ancient pieces, there's a repertoire. There's a left hand, mostly stay on the left to do all the bending, like. So this is a lot of the bending that shows the flavor. And then the next piece I like to play, let's move to Shandong province. Now, Shandong province is where actually the birth of a lot of famous philosophers from ancient the Chinese time, from the Han Dynasty, from the Song Dynasty, is known for famous poets and philosophers, like the birthplace of the Confucius, and also the birthplace of Pu Songling, this famous author who wrote the famous stories of the ghosts. And so this one is from Shandong province. It's literally called Yuzhou Changban. Fisherman singing, Yuzhou. Fishermen go fishing and singing in the evening. That's the literal meaning. And because usually Chinese classical repertoire is usually the titles are kind of like a poetic phrase that also often picture a painting. If you ever have seen traditional Chinese art painting, especially, is the ink painting often comes with a piece of calligraphy that usually is the painter's original poem, and with also a seal, like red chalk, of another calligraphy style of the painter slash poet, because it's kind of like one thing in the old time. To be an artist, be an intellectual, is to be a musician, a composer, a poet, and a painter, and play the Chinese chess Go to demonstrate your mathematics level as well. So there's a lot to catch up with the ancient people. So this piece is Yuzhou Changban. They will demonstrate a different style and different kind of a bending. I'll just take this off and then I'll bring it back. My ears are sweaty. Thank you. I live in a forest. I just the birds were just constant singing. I was like, oh yes, it was so beautiful. and so that is from Shandong province. It's hard to know how old the piece is. I would give at least 300 to 500 years old. It's so old that you can't find the composer anymore, and so and in the old time, speaking of old music from China, I often have students ask me what the score looks like. The From how I learned, we use the number system. For example, one. So it's a movable do system. So one is do, two is re, three is mi, and there. I mean, four is fa, of course, but often because pentatonic, we often just go 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, and then it's do re mi sol la, do re mi sol la, do re mi sol la do, and so it's called. And each one has a name. Gong is do, is first degree do, gong, shang, jue, zhi, yu. So this system, that the five notes have all Chinese names from I would say about 1,000, 1,500 years ago, maybe 2,000 years ago. There was already a music theory system that have the five. Basically, it's related to five elements, because you also can, from the Western theory, from the string theory, when a wavelength, when in the middle, is the octave higher, and then the next harmonic series is fifth, and then if you keep chopping, so the first you get is gong shang jue zhi yu, and then all the sharps and kind of 7th degree, 4th degree kind of tucked in there. So it is actually quite a scientific way to have the first five elements, the first five harmonics, to be the main pentatonic, is really the first five harmonic in the first five harmonic series. And the gong shang jue zhi yu do re mi sol la, and then we can do, just bend in the middle to get the other one, like so that's yeah. So we use number system. So 0 obviously is rest, and a number, let's say 1 without anything on the top, is this do is a quarter note. If you have two ones together and a line underneath, is each do becomes an eighth note, da da do do. And then if you do double lines under four notes, four numbers, is 16th note. And then 0 is re, or ba 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 ba. So we have that double line, single line, and double line. And then you, for octaves, you add a dot under the number. It becomes octave lower. 2 octaves lower, add another dot. An octave higher, add a dot on top of the number. And then 2 dots is 2 octaves higher. So that's quite easy to do sight read. And everything else is pretty much similar to the Western staff notation. So when I was a kid, I learned both the number system, and because I learned the piano, so I learned the fixed do system for the piano score. So modern guzheng scores are quite similar to, pretty much the same as the piano score. So bass clef and then treble clef. Because also the range is very similar to a piano, so it's almost like perfect to cover the most used registers on a piano score to score for the guzheng, and so that's the notation. But in the ancient notation, there wasn't number or the lines. It was mainly used Chinese old characters. So one character, there's often kind of different part, like let's say the upper left, that part means which string to pluck. And then lower, another section of the character means the dynamic. And then the upper right may mean the bending style. And then the lower part, the other part, the bottom corner, could mean the temple. So you are reading one character has all these information in one, and then you just sight read like that. Which this way of reading a score has pretty much been lost. It's just very difficult. There may be less than 50 people in the world now can sight read score with reading Chinese characters, and then just like just sing like that or play. I feel very lucky that I've learned from a master in Beijing who is one of the 50 people who can just like, oh yeah, this one, he started singing opera like that. So what are you doing? It's kind of like a secret code. Speaking of, I already kind of mentioned the opera. Like maybe just like I since I was a kid, I've been a big fan of Peking opera. Peking opera is a traditional opera. There's so many operas because the history of Chinese culture is so long. Besides the instrumental music, that's also been so long, as well as the opera culture. The Peking opera is considered, if not the national opera, it is most widely performed opera in China, all over China, and although it's the youngest, this opera has all sorts of tradition. You can go on YouTube to see what it looks like. Usually the performers dress up with costumes, have face painted. In the old school, that each mask would mean the character's gender, age, social status, if he's a good guy or a bad guy, because it's just so old. Like when we look at a Peking opera mask, I know what this person in the role from a novel is, and then for female as well. So it's kind of hard to sing with that. Let me see. So I will sing a one from called the 卖水一段. It's supposedly be sung by a maid. She is waking up in the morning and start like combing her hair and stuff. So this is specifically for a young woman, maybe in her 14, 15-year-old from 200-300 years ago, 300-400 years ago. Her style of singing is more playful than a court, like a girl from a court family that she must sing kind of like that. But a young girl who's a maid often play kind of more playful. So this one is, and then with singing and with spoken singing at the same time. So she's asking herself, oh, when I wake up, what kind of hair oil I will put on, fragrance and all of that. Yeah. 清早起来，什么镜子照？梳一个油头儿，什么花儿香？脸上涂的是什么花儿粉？口点的胭脂是什么花儿红？清早起来，菱花镜子照，梳一个油头，桂花香，脸上涂的是桃花粉，口点的胭脂杏花红。So that is one little bit. So the second part is a answer to her. The first part is she sings to ask herself, and then the second part she speaking sing. Yeah. So there's a lot of, like if you have learned Mandarin, any of you, Mandarin is a very tonal language. So from the Peking opera, Peking is Beijing actually. It's the dialogue from Beijing. So there's a lot of pitch. Everything, the meaning is determined by the pitch. 清早起来，菱花镜子照. Like those pitches really deliver the meaning. If it's a different way of pitch, then change the meaning entirely. And yeah, and then there's so much goes on. Actually, there's like the ensemble, percussion ensemble goes behind the singing as well. So the tradition for when I learned Peking opera as a composer at the China Conservative Music, we had to learn the percussion part to actually understand the instrumental part, how to support the singers. The singers not only sing on stage, they also have to do dance and acrobat often, and martial arts sometimes while singing. So it's a lot of goes on tradition goes in, and sometimes they have to perform calligraphy live to as part of the play. So if they write back calligraphy, then the audience will boo him or her off the stage. And so that's just a lot of goes on. So for example, at the when we sing, we have to learn to sing how to sing the Peking opera percussion part. Like te is the little gong. When you hit it, the pitch goes up. Hit the center of the little gong, the pitch goes up. So we say te, and then Kwang is the big gong that you hit the center with the mallet, with the soft mallet head, that the pitch goes down, bends down. Kwang, te. And then Qi is cymbal, the sound of cymbal. Qi, muted cymbal. Qi, qi, kwang, te, ba, da, is the drum. Is the drum. Da, 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 da. So when we sing these sounds, we can sing a whole orchestra by one person. And then that's how we learn the instrumental part of the Peking opera. And so that's kind of brief how I and then of course I have become growing up in Beijing. Besides, I was a fan of a lot of operas, and I also there's long tradition of folk music in China. It's still it's because there's just been people there from different traditions, cultural backgrounds for thousands of years there, so they all their most beautiful folk music, folk songs have been passed on generations, centuries, dynasties. And so I like to also sing one that is called the Wusuli Boat Song. It's from northeastern China by a very small group of minority group called the Hezhe people. They lived on Wusuli River that runs between China and Russia. Half of the river is in the China side and half the river is in the Russia side. So half of the Hezhe people live in China, half live in Russia, the current map, on the Wusuli River bank. And there's very tiny population. The whole together is probably less than 50,000 people. And however, one of their boat songs have made hugely popular in China. Maybe a billion people know the song. And so it's the people, Hezhe people, live on the Wusuli River bank, and their life is really all about the river. They live on the boats, and about even 70, 80 years ago, their traditional clothes was made out of fish skin. Is that how much their life is associated with the river life? Okay, so this one's a Wusuli Boat Song. thank you. And so that's a Wusuli Boat Song. It sings about a mother rowing her boat with her baby on the river and seeing the windy river and the beautiful green, how deep green the riverbank, the trees is, and working hard fishing while rocking her baby at the end of boat to rock her to sleep. So that's the Wusuli Boat Song. And then, okay, before we open up for Q&A, I like to play this one piece. It's a contemporary piece. It's based on a Tibetan folk melody on the guzheng, so you can see how the music has transformed from the old classical style to the modern style. Okay, it's called the 雪山春晓, Himalayan spring. It's based on the Himalayan Mount Everest. Okay, now I'm going to change this D pentatonic to G pentatonic. You get to actually see. Went from D pentatonic to G pentatonic. So let me just tighten my tape. I wear picks, which is also quite a modern to wear pick this way. Okay, let me just tighten that. When it's summer, it's kind of you play and then it gets sweaty and the tape starts to feel. Okay, I'm gonna take this off. Okay, the Himalayan spring. Thank you. All right. That was a good exercise. I feel like I have achieved, climbed the Mount Everest. All right. I would love to hear any question or I didn't even get to the improvisation part. Oh gosh. Hey, ask me anything because I may just improvise something.
Yeah.
You mentioned before that using picks on your fingers was a modern thing. What did they do before that?
Some probably, I always say from my teachers, they didn't use any pick. They used their own, really their own fingernails. Uh,
Oh, oh,
that just because the old traditional style of picking, it wasn't so technical demanding yet. So mostly it's kind of more mellow and melodic. So and then the strings back then were silk string. There's these strings are steel wire inside and nylon wrap outside. That's just like a bigger sound and tougher sound. So it's so back then, yeah, they, I'm not sure if the ancient people used picks or not. But my teachers and their teachers used their own fingernails. I remember my teacher, who's already passed away. He always had pretty rough, big, thick fingernails, so to pluck the string. But it wasn't like. But he taught me to wear picks, so to do the contemporary style. So now wearing picks has become all the common way to play the guzheng.
that's really interesting.
Yeah. Any more questions?
Mine isn't a question, it's a comment. Your playing is so smooth. Like my body wanted to go to sleep. It was just so calming, but I didn't want to go to sleep, so I wanted to hear more. It's very, very nice.
Thank you so much.
I really liked that second.
Hey, yes.
Oh, I was just saying, I really liked your second piece. That was just my favorite.
Oh, the Fisherman song.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. It's I guess the guzheng itself is a very, I think the long sustained sound. It transcends you irresistibly in a way. I've been thinking about that. Why I feel like especially plucked instrument, including piano. It's in a way of you are going with gravity. Things that are like rain drop in the lake and then the ripple. So when you even visually to see that can put you in a more kind of transcending stage, because you kind of the feeling of letting go, and then plucked instrument have that. It's very soothing. Instead of I think, let's say I in my thinking the bowed instrument is maybe playing against gravity, because you are always kind of, it's not just let go. Maybe I don't play it, but somehow it's just the physics of the way you just pluck one time and then boom, you're letting go, and it's constantly letting go, boom, one after another. So that somehow may have that effect. Thank you.
Yeah.
When did you start playing it?
I was 5. I was 5. Yeah. I mean, growing up in China, it's kind of the Chinese culture. I would say even a lot of East Asian culture is. I didn't choose to become a musician, but later I'm glad that I stuck with it, and it wasn't. It was a bumpy road, I have to say. So for all of you, if you struggle at times with the repertoire you're working on or seeing the future, and it's not an easy road. However, it will benefit for the rest of your life. If the goal is not to make ton of money by doing it, is to achieve happiness. So this will guarantee that. Yes.
Oh, okay. So like, is it hard to like move the string when you do like the that thing? Is it hard to do that?
Is it harder to do move the string to do what?
Like, you know when you like shake the string when you're plucking it?
Oh, you mean the bending, the vibrato?
Yeah.
Oh no, it's not. It's the bridges are very firm. Like I can lift this up. It's this tight. You know, I was like like that. So so they're really tight actually. So actually even when I change a new string on the thicker, I mean on the thinner strings, I often, you know, you guys probably have the same experience with changing guitar strings or violoncello strings. Is, you know, the things were like, you know, you move your face away from it because it has happened to me, you know, when it pop, and then one time, you know, the thin wires just almost like a needle, a strip. It's like, but yeah, so it's not, yeah. But in the thick string, it's kind of hard to bend because it's harder, thicker strings. Sometimes I have to stand up, use my body weight to like that. So that's yeah, and then your question reminds me of when I also learned the Japanese koto. If you have seen it, it looks very similar to the guzheng, and they're related. So there are several, I would say, cousin zithers all over Asia that are related to the guzheng, the Japanese koto, the Korean kayakum, the Mongolian yaka, the Vietnamese dantram. Yeah, so if you know browse them and then you see, oh, they look really similar, actually quite related. Yes, and the next question.
I was wondering what kind of vocal warm-ups you do.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear it clearly.
I was wondering what kind of vocal warm-ups you do.
Oh, how much warm up I do before, like daily?
No, what kind of vocal voice warm-ups?
Oh, voice. Oh, voice warm up. Oh, nowadays I kind of I should do more. I actually don't do so much. I just want to be honest with you, but I do. Sometimes I talk a lot, even to myself. If that is a shortcut for voice warm up, because I was also in a girls' choir since I was 8 years old in China, and then sometimes, you know, the joining vocal voice singing competition as a duo or even as a solo. You know, the first round starts at 9 a.m. and you have to really sing the stuff. You know, you get there by 8 a.m. So I figured there's one trick you can learn is just talk a lot. Just, you know, get that cotton out of your throat if you can't hit the pitches yet. But yeah, I don't really do, but I have been singing a lot and also learning the Peking opera singing. Once you know how to control those pitches in a quite a hard way, singing folk songs becomes very easy because folk music melody is like you know, it stays in quite of a smaller intervals, but picking opera, like, you know, so there's a lot of control. So so I've been doing that since I was probably your age. So I would encourage you to learn some really kind of hard singing when you were young, when you're your age. So the longer the older you get, it would become easier to sing other not so difficult melodies. But you know, you may not like the music that sounds difficult, but know that it'll benefit you, you know, technical wise. Yeah. Yes.
I noticed you had like an instrument to the other side. Like, yeah, what exactly is that?
It's the Chinese dulcimer.
Oh.
The Chinese hammer dulcimer. Dulcimer is also another, like from this, good question. Because from this perspective, we can see how much exchange there has been throughout human history. I know there's the Appalachian hammer dulcimer. There's lots of like Hungarian dulcimer. There's the Alpine in Europe dulcimer, and then there's the Chinese dulcimer. So a lot of dulcimer. So this one, I don't play it, but it's the Chinese dulcimer is different from the hammer is quite different. It's two pieces of bamboo, and then with the rubber at the bottom to hit the string, so that sound is softer instead of the rounded wooden sound. So it's not tuned. Oops. So like that, and then each bridge there's like 3 strings. So that's the Chinese hammer dulcimer, and then sometimes I use this to experiment. And then usually in the Chinese hammer dulcimer, these are always Chinese characters carved in the bamboo to have the characters is called 梦之音, the sound of dream, by Wei Ning, the maker's name. So there always also been a tradition for centuries that the instrument making, that like my guzheng has 风仪烛影, the 4 characters with a certain calligraphy style from the Song dynasty. Wind moves, bamboo, shadow, and then to basically the maker to put a sentiment and a good wish, a sound level or imaginative way of what this piece of art should sound like, that it should deliver the sound of wind and the shadow of the bamboo. So it's kind of a different kind of levels, and then there's also a calligraphy and poem carved in the back of the instrument. So it's like a complete piece of an instrument. Anyways, yeah. So there's like instruments. I would love to turn my house into a international global instrument museum one day. So I wake up just like start plucking everything. That would be my dream. So anything? Any more?
Are there different sizes of the instrument? Like with the violin, we have like half size and like quarter size and like full size.
Yes, there is different. Yes, I have a half-sized guzheng that's about a meter long, and then there's a little slightly longer, but they all have 21 strings. They don't change the string numbers, but it's just shorter. And then the biggest I've played has 25 strings. It was giant. However, because I mean there are different sizes, but the most common one is this one, is the 21 string guzheng. Because for performance on stage, the beauty of the guzheng is really the low, is so deep without the length of the body of the wood, a certain kind of wood. It won't deliver that kind of depth. Because I have those shorter ones, the smaller ones, the low pitch, I just never use it. It just sounds like a cotton, kind of like blah, blah. But so even if there are those smaller ones, they're not usually used for performance. They're usually used for just kind of keep up your fingers, and while you travel, and you can bring on the plane, or in the car a little bit, when you have a moment, you do a little plucking and practice. But it's never use, or at least the technology, they haven't figured out how to, deliver such a beautiful tone with the smaller body of the wood. Yes.
We're out of time, but do you think you could just briefly talk about your work as a composer and improviser to wrap us up?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Could you talk a little bit about yourself as a composer and improviser to wrap us up?
Oh, yes. I've been composing since I was 12, and I entered, because my training was really for Western classical and traditional Chinese music since I was 5. Started ear training in music theory, in Western music theory, when I was 9. So by the age I was 12, I started composing to prepare myself to enter the Chinese Conservative music. So basically, before I came to America in 2000 as an undergrad student, I was trained very much like a Western classical composer, writing for string quartets, piano solo concerto, or guzheng solo pieces, or mixer, choral music. We studied Bach, Beethoven, Brahms, Hindemith, to this like Debussy and Ravel, Bela Bartok, all the whole 9 yards of Western classical music to contemporary Western classical music. And then I came to America in 2000 as an undergrad student, and then I discovered improvisation, which improvisation in my training back in China, it wasn't emphasized at all, wasn't kind of really encouraged, because our job as a composer was to write the score, write a symphony, write the string quartets. But then when I came to the States, I was really moved by the African drum dance ensemble, Indian raga music, vocal music with tabla, because there was so much improvisations, and also a Balinese gamelan, which I also played for 6 years, ensemble. That the music wasn't notated, but it was so complex. As a conservatory trained musician, we often don't know how to what to play when there's no score in front of us. And I felt really frustrated and really kind of sad in a way, that like I've had this much training, and why can't I play anything? Like these guys, they have no score, but they play for hours, like all the most complex rhythmic pattern ever. And I was stunned, and I was kind of struggled for a while. And then at Mills College, when I was doing my master's degree in music, and I was basically forced to take a dive, to give it a try, to let go of the training, because my professor at the time, Fred Frith, told me that you don't lack training, you don't lack craft, you just need to let yourself come out, your own voice. You never forget the craft is part of you now. So I said, okay, I'll give it a try, because it's not easy to let go of the things you've been trained for, your whole life, basically. And then I just dropped the burden, in a way, the burden, trying to think of structure, like whatever, and then just start play. Either is pitched on the side, or sometimes unpitched. Could be element, or sometimes could be a piece of leaf, a rock, or plastic bag. If they make sense in your head, your imagination, then so be it. Is part of the sound you want to make. You be the creator, the master of the music, instead of you be the servant of the instrument. It should be the other way. Yeah, you play this and you play it, not let it play you to dominate you. So that's how I kind of just unleash myself. So it's just kind of be. I know it's not easy to be free in a way. Like when I teach, sometimes I teach my kids piano. It's like, relax. You're too tight. And my daughter's like, but it's hard to relax. But isn't relax is supposed to be the most natural thing? Why can't we do the most natural thing? Why have we have so much training? So from simple to complex is not hard, but from complex return to simple, I find it's much harder. It's like it's easier to play fast. It's hard to play slow with absolute control. So that I think eventually you all may get to that. I hope you all get to that point. It's like when I just only play one note, and it can be as powerful as the 1,000 notes, because that one note tells so much more story somehow. But of course, without playing the 1,000 notes, you won't get to understand that boom, that one pluck, that one sound tells everything. So that's kind of I'm still working on it. I'm still working on it. So I've been through the same age, same struggle, the same joy as you, and I hope all the bright future is ahead of you, knowing that struggle, good things don't come easily. The struggle will be the most precious life experience that will lead to eventually joy and wisdom. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, you guys. I hope we'll meet you guys one day in person, and stay safe and practice. Yeah, we say 苦尽甜来 in Chinese. When the bitterness is over, it's all sweetness down the road.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Faye.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you.
Yeah.
You have a good
Have a
rest
wonderful
of
rest of the
summer.
day. You too.
Thank you, Sarah. Bye.
Bye.